Liam Ryder had always been captivated by the idea of fame. It wasn't just the money or the adoration that drew him, it was the power. The idea that his music could echo through the lives of millions, changing them, molding them. But as he toiled away in the grimy bars of his hometown, that dream seemed farther away than ever. Each night he poured his soul into his performances, fingers dancing across the strings of his guitar, voice cracking with emotion, yet the world barely noticed. A few claps, a nod of appreciation from the bartender, maybe even a few extra dollars tossed in the tip jar. It was never enough. The rejections from record labels piled up, and each one chipped away at his hope, until it felt like there was nothing left but the music itself. Then one night, as he was packing up after another lackluster gig, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from a number he didn't recognize.
Mr. Ryder, I've been following your work. I believe you have the potential to become something truly special. I'd like to discuss a partnership that could take you to heights you've never imagined. If you're interested, meet me tomorrow at midnight, Studio 13.
And it was signed from Mr. X. Liam's heart raced. Studio 13 was the most famous recording studios in the city, but it was shrouded in mystery. Rumors swirled about what really went on inside, but no one seemed to know for sure. The opportunity felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man, and Liam didn't hesitate. He responded with a simple, "I'll be there." The next night, Liam arrived at Studio 13 just before midnight. The building loomed before him, its exterior dark and unwelcoming. The city's noise seemed to fade as he approached, leaving an eerie silence in its place. He hesitated for a moment before pushing open the heavy door. Inside, the studio was even more imposing. The walls were lined with gold and platinum records, each bearing the name of an artist who had risen to fame, seemingly out of nowhere. Liam recognized some of the names. They were legends now, but their careers had started in obscurity, much like his own.
Welcome, Mr. Ryder.
The voice was smooth, almost hypnotic. Liam turned to see a man standing in the shadows, his face obscured by the darkness. He was tall, dressed in a sharp suit that seemed to absorb the light. His presence was commanding, almost otherworldly.
"You must be Mr. X,"
Liam said, his voice trembling slightly. The man stepped forward, revealing a face that was strikingly ordinary, yet unsettlingly difficult to remember. His features seemed to blur, as his identity was something he could shift at will.
I am.
The man confirmed.
I've been watching you for some time, Liam. You have a talent that's rare, but it's being wasted. I can help you unlock your full potential.
Liam felt a mix of excitement and unease.
"What's the catch?"
Mr. X smiled, a cold, calculated smile.
No catch, just a simple agreement. You'll follow my guidance without question, and in return, I'll make you a star. But you must understand, once you're in, there's no turning back.
Liam hesitated. Every instinct told him this was too good to be true, but the hunger for success, for validation, was stronger. He nodded.
"I'm in."
Liam's rise to fame was as swift as it was surreal. Within weeks, his music was everywhere, on the radio, in clubs, even the background of commercials. His face appeared on magazine covers. His name became a trending topic on social media. It was everything he had ever dreamed of, but it came at a cost he hadn't anticipated. The first sign that something was wrong came late one night. Liam was in his apartment trying to unwind after a day filled with interviews and photo shoots. As he lay in bed, the sound of whispers filled the room. At first, he thought it was his imagination, a product of exhaustion, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent, forming words that sent chills down his spine.
"Liam, you're one of us now. There's no escape."
He sat up, heart pounding, but the room was empty. The whispers stopped as suddenly as they had begun. He tried to shrug it off as stress, but the unease lingered. The whispers became more frequent, accompanied by strange occurrences. His phone would ring in the middle of the night, but when he answered, there was only silence. He started receiving messages from unknown numbers, cryptic warnings and threats that made his blood run cold.
"You're in too deep, Liam. You should have walked away when you had the chance."
His relationships began to suffer. His girlfriend Emily noticed the changes in him, the sleepless nights, the growing paranoia. She tried to help, but Liam pushed her away, convinced that she couldn't understand what he was going through.
"You don't get it, Emily,"
he snapped during one of their many arguments.
"This is my shot. I can't let anything or anyone get in that way."
But at what cost, Liam?
she pleaded.
You're not yourself anymore. You're becoming someone I don't even recognize.
But Liam was too far gone to listen. He was consumed by the need to succeed, to live up to the expectations placed on him by Mr. X. And as his fame grew, so did the feeling that he was being watched, controlled. Mr. X's influence was everywhere, suffocating him, yet he couldn't break free. Liam threw himself into his music with a fervor that bordered on madness. He spent days and nights in the studio, working on what he believed would be his masterpiece, the album that would solidify his place in history. But the creative process was unlike anything he had experienced before. The music seemed to come from somewhere else, somewhere dark and twisted. The whispers guided him, filling his head with melodies and lyrics that were both haunting and beautiful. They spoke of pain, of suffering, of the price of fame, and Liam, desperate to create something extraordinary, followed their lead without question. But as the album took shape, so did the darkness within him. The music became an obsession, a compulsion. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped caring about anything other than the work. The studio became his prison, the walls closing in on him as the whispers grew louder, more demanding. Then one night, as he was searching for inspiration, he stumbled upon a hidden door at the back of the studio. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but something drew him to it. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was cold, the air thick with dust. It was filled with old records, each one carefully preserved. Liam picked one up, wiping away the grime to reveal the name on the label. His heart skipped a beat. It was a name he recognized, a musician who had risen to fame just as quickly as Liam, only to disappear without a trace. Liam's hands trembled as he examined more records. Each one bore the name of an artist who had worked with Mr. X. They were all legends, all remembered for their brilliance, but none had been heard from in years. It's as if they had simply vanished after reaching the peak of their careers. A cold dread settled in Liam's stomach. He was starting to understand. These artists hadn't vanished, they'd been consumed. Their talent, their creativity had been drained, leaving them empty shells, and now it was happening to him. Determined to break free, Liam confronted Mr. X the next day. He demanded answers, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger.
What did you do to them? What are you doing to me?
Mr. X regarded him with an expression of mild amusement.
I gave them what they wanted, just as I'm giving you. Fame, success, immortality in the eyes of the world. But everything comes at a price, Liam. You didn't think you could achieve all this without sacrificing something, did you?
Liam's breath caught in his throat.
What do you mean?
The music, the success, it was never really yours.
Mr. X said, his tone matter of fact.
It was theirs, the artists who came before you. Their souls fuel the creativity that the world worships, and now you're part of that cycle.
Liam's mind reeled. It was too much to process, too horrifying to accept, but deep down he knew it was true. The music, the whispers, the sudden burst of talent, it was all felt unnatural, as if it was being channeled through him from somewhere else, and now he was trapped, just like the others.
No,
Liam whispered, backing away.
I won't let you do this to me.
Mr. X's expression darkened.
It's already done. There's no escape, Liam. The music owns you now.
In a panic, Liam fled the studio. He ran through the city, his mind racing, desperate to find a way out. But no matter how far he ran, the whispers followed, echoing in his mind, reminding him that he was no longer in control. Liam's life unraveled completely. His paranoia grew to the point where he could no longer distinguish reality from nightmare. The world around him blurred, twisted by his crumbling sanity. He locked himself away in his apartment, unable to face the outside world, drowning in the whispers that had become his constant companions. They taunted him, mocked him, reminded him of inescapable fate that awaited him. Days turned into weeks, and Liam became a shadow of his former self. His once vibrant eyes were now hollow, dark circles etched beneath them. He stopped answering calls, stopped caring about his career, his music. All that mattered was finding a way to break free from the grip of Mr. X. But no matter what he did, he couldn't escape the whispers, the relentless voices that haunted his every waking moment. Then, one night, the whispers suddenly stopped. The silence was deafening, more terrifying than the voices had ever been. For the first time in weeks, Liam could think clearly. The fog in his mind lifted, and with that came a realization. The only way out was to confront the source of his torment. He had to face Mr. X one last time and put an end to the nightmare. With a newfound resolve, Liam returned to Studio 13. The building loomed before him like a tombstone, cold and foreboding. He pushed the door open and stepped inside, the familiar sense of dread washing over him. But this time he was determined. He would not leave until he had answers. The studio was eerily quiet, the air thick with tension. As Liam made his way to the control room, he noticed something strange. The walls, once adorned with gold and platinum records, were now bare. It was as if the legacy of the artists who had come before him had been erased, their memories wiped clean. Liam entered the control room and found Mr. X waiting for him, seated behind the mixing console, his face as inscrutable as ever.
I knew you'd come back,
Mr. X said, his voice calm, almost soothing. Liam glared at him, his hands clenched into fists.
This ends now. I'm done being your puppet. I want out.
Mr. X regarded him with a look of pity.
There's no out, Liam. You're in too deep. You knew the risks, and you made your choice.
No.
Liam spat, his voice trembling with anger.
You tricked me. You used me. But I won't let you do this to anyone else.
Mr. X sighed a weary sound.
You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about me. It's about the music. The music demands sacrifice. It always has, and it always will. I'm just the instrument, the conduit for which it feeds.
Liam felt a chill run down his spine.
What are you?
Mr. X smiled, a cold, empty smile.
I am the echo of every note, every chord, every song that has ever been played. I am the shadow that lingers in the spaces between the music, the force that drives creativity, that fuels the genius of those who are willing to give everything for their art.
Liam shook his head, refusing to accept what he was hearing.
You're lying. You're just a man, a twisted, evil man who preys on people like me.
Mr. X's smile faded.
You can believe whatever you want, Liam. The truth remains the same. You're part of this now. You can't change that.
Desperation clawed at Liam's chest. He couldn't accept that this was his fate, that he was doomed to become just another lost soul, another forgotten artist trapped in the endless cycle of fame and oblivion. There had to be a way out, a way to break free from the curse that had claimed so many before him. And then it came to him. The only way to end this was to destroy the source of the music, to silence the whispers once and for all. He turned his gaze to the mixing console, the heart of the studio where the music was born, where it was controlled. Without a second thought, Liam lunged at the console, ripping out wires, smashing buttons, and tearing apart the equipment. The studio filled with the sound of screeching feedback, a cacophony that made his ears bleed. But he didn't stop. He tore at the machine with a frenzied desperation, determined to destroy whatever power it held over him. But as the console lay in ruins, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent than ever.
No, Liam. You can't stop us. You belong to us.
Liam screamed in frustration, slamming his fists against the broken equipment. But then, amidst the chaos, he noticed something. A faint light emanating from beneath the console. He hesitated for a moment, then reached down and pried open a hidden panel. Inside was a small glowing disc, a vinyl record unlike he'd ever seen before. It pulsed with a strange, unnatural light as he stared at it. Liam knew that this was the source of the curse, the key to everything. Without hesitation, he grabbed the record and threw it on the ground, smashing it into pieces. The moment it shattered, the whispers stopped, and the room fell silent. Liam collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath, his mind reeling from the intensity of what he had just experienced. But as the silence settled around him, a sense of peace washed over him. The curse was broken. He was free. Or so he thought. Liam stumbled out of the studio, his body aching, his mind numb. The city was quiet, the streets empty, as if the world itself had paused to catch its breath. He felt a strange sense of calm, a sense that everything would be okay now. But as he walked, he noticed something odd. The buildings around him seemed to blur, to shift in and out of focus, like a dream fading away. The streetlights flickered, casting strange, distorted shadows that danced along the pavement. Liam's heart began to race. Something was wrong. He picked up his pace, desperate to get home, to escape whatever was happening, but the world around him continued to warp and twist, the familiar streets becoming a labyrinth of confusion. Then, without warning, the ground beneath him gave way, and Liam found himself falling into darkness, into nothingness. When he opened his eyes, he was back in Studio 13, standing in the control room, the shattered remains of the vinyl record at his feet. But something was different. The air was thicker, heavier, and the room was filled with a low humming sound that seemed to vibrate through his bones. And then he saw them, the shadows. They moved along the walls, shifting, swirling, taking shape. Faces appeared in the darkness, faces he recognized, faces of the artists who had come before him, the ones who disappeared, their expressions twisted in agony, in despair. Liam tried to move, to run, but he was frozen in place, unable to tear his gaze away from the horrific sight before him.
You didn't think it was that easy, did you?
A voice whispered in his ear, Mr. X's voice, but now it was everywhere, surrounding him, suffocating him.
You destroyed the record, but you can't destroy the music. It's part of you now, just as it's part of us. You're one of us, Liam. You always were.
The shadows closed in, their voices merging into a haunting melody, a song of despair and hopelessness. Liam's vision blurred as the darkness consumed him, his mind shattering with weight of the realization. He wasn't free. He had never been free. The music, the whispers, they had been inside him all along, feeding on his soul, on his creativity, until there was nothing left. And now, he was just another lost artist, another soul trapped in the endless cycle, destined to inspire the next victim. As the darkness swallowed him whole, Liam's final thought was of the new artist who would soon receive the call from Mr. X, the next in line to chase a dream of fame, unaware of the price they would pay. And so the cycle continues, the discord of fame claiming another soul, another echo lost in the music.